Oh, there we go. Come on.
Hey.
Live from your ESG, DEI, climate change, global warming, ESG, DEI. It's a Business Pants Friday show here at Valentine's Day Studios featuring AnalystHole Matt Moscardi.
That's me.
On today's weekly wrap-up, corporate abolitionists, the Gulf of Stupidity, the S in ISS stands for shitty. I didn't know that. And Denny's truth bomb. Ooh.
I did see the Denny's story. I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Our show today is being sponsored by FreeFlowAnalytics.com, the only platform measuring board power, connections, and performance for free. Before we signed on, Matt, you were wondering...
Let the people clap first.
All right, fine.
They got to clap for FreeFlow Analytics.
You were wondering, why do certain proxy advisory companies like ISS and Glass Lewis, why do they wait for an activist investor to stand up before they start kind of looking into board members, right? Looking at directors. It's because, Matt, they're not spending enough time on FreeFlowAnalytics.com because that's the only place where they can articulate the performance of board members.
Yeah, there it is.
So just spend more time there.
I mean, it's also ISS. It's also free for you can get half the data for free.
But you can pay for it too.
You could call us or FreeFlow Analytics and pay them for the full data set, make your jobs really, really easy, set policies that are really, really algorithmic and nice and easy.
I've got some new ones. Yeah, if the lead independent director's been there for a decade, you vote no. I got a bunch of them.
Can I just say, we do another show called Proxy Countdown. If you don't listen to that show, it is basically we treat annual general meetings like sporting events, director transactions, moving and trades and all this stuff. Damien, you came up with maybe the greatest ratio in the history of ratios on our last one, which was CEO relocation fee to median employee salary. Yeah. I love that. You covered somebody who was just brought on as a CEO. The relocation payment that person is getting to go from wherever they were to wherever headquarters is was 9 times the median salary of an employee. That's insane. Yeah,
does it? I mean, I didn't even really stop to even think about it. $300,000 to relocate? What is a gold-plated U-Haul? What is that? What's that money for?
I don't know. They only use peacock feathers to feather dust everything, but when they put it down, I don't even know.
I'm unclear about that payment. All right, ready to do today's wrap-up, weekly wrap-up?
Let's wrap this week, baby. Story of the week.
I went very ESG with my stories of the week, kind of old-fashioned, Yeah, well, okay, you don't like this. Let's start with Goldman Sachs. This one... Wait, you doing it before I even say the story?
You said Goldman Sachs. That was enough.
This one really got me. I've been stewing on this headline all week, so I had to include it. Goldman Sachs abandons DEI rule saying it has, quote, served its purpose, unquote.
Who says that?
So here's who said that. It's Richard Gnodde. He's the CEO of Goldman Sachs International and a member of the bank's management committee. He told the BBC, okay, this is what also really gets me. He told the BBC that the bank had scrapped its board diversity requirement because of legal developments and the fact that it had achieved its function. So it's both. So see how convenient it is? It's both, Matt. It's both.
Oh, there we go. I love that. Richard Gnodde, how did you measure served its purpose? I just want to know. This is everything that has to do with DEI. One thing when you say because of legal developments, okay, because basically, why don't you just say we're terrified, we're scared, of stuff.
That I can at least maybe be okay with. We're really afraid of Trump and we are sycophants.
We're afraid. We want his money. Just say what you really mean. Yeah. You don't mean legal developments. You mean we really we are on our knees to kiss his ass right now. Right? Okay. But the second part. DEI has served its purpose. It's over.
Done.
It's done. We don't need it anymore. Can you prove that? Prove the purpose it served. What did it serve? How did you measure it? What was success? Are you successful? Because my guess is you can't measure anything, Richard Gnodde. Nothing.
No, of course not. And how do we, Richard? How do we? Let's forget the optics of the fact that he's a South African investment banker. But let's forget that. How about what about the research, Richard? Like maybe doubling your diversity quota will actually help things even more. Maybe it'll serve the purpose. But how do we know? Like you've spent no time looking into the short or long-term ramifications of anything about this policy. Don't you usually study policies and see what the outcomes are?
Doesn't Goldman Sachs run Monte Carlo simulations of all sorts of markets and everything and whatever?
Urinal usage, yeah.
Use your AI Monte Carlo simulators to say, what if all of Goldman Sachs was black women? Would it be better? Would it be worse? Has it served its purpose? Let's do some actual data crunching. Let's figure something out.
Maybe Goldman Sachs has served its purpose as a private organization is to just enter the public domain.
Wow.
Yeah, just break up, just be
socialist of you. That's unusually
Second
socialist.
story of the week. A billionaire Airbnb co-founder is said to take role in Musk's government initiative. Of course, that's Doge, and who they're referring to is actually a bit more than that, Matt. He's a board member at Tesla. Yes, that's Joe Gebbia. Is that how you pronounce his name? Joe Gebbia. And I like this little detail of the story. He arrived at the DC headquarters in a black SUV with a 3-man security detail.
Does anybody know who Joe Gebbia is?
But how about that? How about the fact that you're what kind of life choices are you making that you feel like you need 3 men to prevent normal people from coming to get you? Like maybe you should stop and think about some of your actions. Like what are you doing to stakeholders around you that you need to be protected? Like what's going on, Joe?
Let me do a quick
3.
If I were to describe Joe Gebbia.
Yeah, go ahead.
He looks vaguely, and I do mean vaguely, like Will Forte. He's a white guy.
I don't know what that looks like. He looks like Elon Musk.
He almost looks a little like me. I'm like an uglier version of Joe Gebbia.
A generic North American white dude.
Generic white guy.
Yeah.
And let me ask you something. Do you think anyone anywhere walking down the street would say, hey, look, it's Joe Gebbia?
Look,
there's nobody.
But is this not a sign of our budding oligarchy that he thinks that A, he'll be recognized, and that B, he needs protection from average citizens? I mean, that's just, it tells me everything. And this is the same Joe Gebbia, Matt. I will remind you that that Tesla swears is an independent director.
Yeah. No, he's super independent.
Independent.
That black SUV, not a Tesla though. So credit where credit's due. Right?
Yeah, Joe's not stupid. I mean, right? I mean, why would he
get recalled every day?
Yeah, he's a billionaire. He's not an idiot. All right. The next headline. This is from Bloomberg. The headline is "Sustainable Investors Flee References to Climate Change." Thus my opening remarks at the top of the show. I like this little anecdote. The article tells: for more than a decade, investment chief of Green Alpha Investments, Garvin Jabush, would show a chart of the planet's rising temperatures when pitching investment ideas to clients, saying they could help save the planet and still make money. Now he's saying, I've given up on anyone ever caring about that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, what are we... I don't... So this is the crossroads we're at, Matt. That they also talked about engine number 1. Remember that sort of famously... Well, it took the credit for
it was not
an activist shake up at ExxonMobil, but now they have scrubbed their language. So here's where we're at, Matt. This is what's confusing. Is that are the greenwashers just scrubbing the greenwashing, or are they making actual policy change, or what's actually happening? Because there was another article saying that basically the way Elon Musk and Doge is targeting spending on climate projects is to just they're searching for keywords like climate change and ESG. They're just. So what's really happening? Are we all
Super
giving
clever.
up? Yeah, what's happening? Do you know?
What's happening is this is a candidate for
retreat?
asshole of the week. So we're
Okay.
gonna come back to this anyway.
All
This is
right,
just
okay.
fucking stupid.
And finally, the fourth story of the week is I'm calling it Mr. Blowhard, the beloved Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon was really at it this week. First, there's this headline: Jamie Dimon is fed up with remote work. Another headline: J.P. Morgan CEO Dimon slams return to office pushback, saying, "I don't care how many people sign that fucking petition." That's an actual
Wow.
quote.
I
And
like
I'm going to
that.
remind you, Matt, that the proxy statement it brags about just how the performance of J.P. Morgan, including things like revenue. Up to $162 billion, a record for the sixth consecutive year, growth across all of its market-leading lines of business,
Yeah, but
record net income.
You don't understand. It could have been 163
Sure.
billion if they were
And there's
in the
proof
office.
of that. Yeah, we're not getting that report, Matt. That we're not seeing that.
I'm just saying.
Jamie Dimon also reportedly says he'll cut some stupid DEI costs at J.P. Morgan
I
Chase.
wonder what that is.
The other headline says that he wants to cancel some DEI spending after the bank spent billions on racial equity. I was never a firm believer in bias training, he said.
Oh, okay. Now we're
And-
not a firm believer.
Yeah, so here's why I include this is that if you look at the company's pay plan in its proxy statement, half of the pay plan is dedicated to something called the how, right? There's the what and the how, right? And one of the
Very clever.
One of the key elements of the how is teamwork and leadership, and that includes things like delivery on internal DEI initiatives. So they ostensibly are getting paid for this stuff, but they get to also call it stupid and say that they never were firm believers. Look, it's all verbal gymnastic games now, right? It's all just games. It's all theater.
He's talking about, like, how much do we think the stupid DEI cost? Right? Like, are we talking about hundreds of millions of dollars?
Well,
Right?
here's the
There's
thing.
no way, right? Like, if we're honest.
Well, here there is a section of our last proxy statement that says called advancing racial equity, and I'm reading from the proxy statement. It says by the end of 2023, we reported nearly $31 billion of progress toward our 5-year, $30 billion racial equity commitment to help close the racial wealth gap and advance economic inclusion among historically undeserved communities in the U.S. So. I don't really know what that's referring to. Is that investing in
Yeah, that's investing in
stakeholder
companies.
communities? Yeah.
When he's talking about stupid costs, I think he's talking about, like, J.P. Morgan, the bank, and, like, never a firm believer in bias training. All right, like, so what he's
Hiring a
if
consultant?
If I'm reading between the lines, it means J.P. Morgan is basically paying to administer some bias training across their, workforce.
They're hiring experts for a workshop.
Yeah, there are like every workshop that every company you've ever been to. This is another workshop with some experts who are trying to get you to actually do something that you mostly as an employee don't care about anyway.
Yeah.
He's
This is
saying,
the-
like,
this is the Doge attitude towards everything. Everything is a line item veto, right? Everything is like a red line. Like that $50 is just too much.
here's what I'm getting at. Like the DEI, stupid internal DEI spend. Is it more or less than Jamie Dimon's 8.3% pay raise in 2024?
Yeah.
Like he made $39 million in 2024, and
Well,
that
here's
was
yeah.
another like $3 million increase on the year before.
Well, I was going to say that the magical part of their pay plan is that it kind of miraculously leads to the same increase every year. It's just the way it works. And it's not just Jamie Dimon, Matt. The 6 named executive officers combined made $145 million. So they're paying all their executives really well.
He says, like, he doesn't like spending money on some stupid shit, right? Like, that's a quote.
Why is it
And-
stupid, by the way? What's so stupid about it? Because he deems it stupid?
Is it smarter to give Jamie Dimon, who is a billionaire after years of being JP Morgan CEO, another $3 million? Where is the stupid shit? Can we have a metric that says stupid shit? Like, is there a bucket there? Like, why isn't it in the 10K that says stupid shit we spent money on? And then let me look through a line item, like line by line, and say, oh, yeah, that was stupid. Like, you shouldn't have hired that guy.
It's the crass statement of an asshole. I'm just going to say it straight out. Because what other stupid shit is JP Morgan, quote unquote, wasting its money on? Let's see those things. You're just focusing on DEI initiatives. You're just focusing on bias training. I mean, that's what stupid. That's just crass. I'm sorry, but
I mean, he also said like 2 weeks ago that he was 100% behind this. Bring it on. Like we are, all. In fact, there was a headline in Forbes that said J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon stands firm amid conservative pressure to dismantle DEI. Now there's some stupid shit.
Yeah, well, this is where these guys. This is why I included the story and why I included the one from Goldman Sachs, because what they don't get is why this stuff matters. When you're being quoted in the public of saying it's stupid and I never really believed it in the first place, it's a waste of money. Those things resonate. You're the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase. I mean, your horrible opinions resonate. So yeah, all right.
So I have four options here. Goldman Sachs abandoning their DEI rule, saying the best part is that it served its purpose. Billionaire Airbnb co-founder Joe Gebbia. Basically, the story would be arrives in Washington with 3-man security detail. Not that he actually took a role in the government initiative.
2 seems like too many. 2 seems like a lot.
I feel like having anyone in the SUV with him he should have driven his own SUV into the parking garage because no one knows who he is. Sustainable investors flee references to climate change, and Mr. Blowhard, Jamie Dimon, says, this one's easy for me. Ooh. I'm going with Goldman Sachs.
Okay, it's just too much. It's just too much of a, yeah.
Just the fact that you said it served its purpose with no evidence of how that purpose was served. This is the constant here. Everybody says,
this is the age we're living in, right?
You just say the thing with no evidence of that thing being true.
No short-term studies, no long-term studies, nothing.
It's like saying we need to go back to the meritocracy. Well, okay, what was that exactly? What measure did you use to say it was a meritocracy and now it's not? Because every measure suggests the exact opposite is true. It's more meritocratic to focus on DEI than not to focus on it, right?
Of course,
Good. The data suggests that. Yeah. So now you're saying it served its purpose. Prove it. Prove it, Richard Gnodde or Gnodde or whatever your name is.
I just love that Goldman Sachs was the first one to talk out of both sides of his mouth because of legal developments and because it achieved its function.
Yeah, well, it is really good. That is really good.
Yeah, they just both sort of happened on the same day of the week. Isn't it a miracle?
I remember waking up. It was Tuesday. There was a new legal development, and I was like, "Oh, good, we're done with this thing." Also, all right, let's do. What are we on? Goodliest.
Goodliest. Come on.
I don't feel that sad this week, so Goodliest feels good. In fact,
well, you go first then.
I'm going to say this. This is the greatest Goodliest I feel like we've ever done. No offense to Ari the Data Queen, who was like the master of the Goodliest.
No, she wasn't. She just picked batteries.
I think this is the greatest Goodliest ever, so I'll go first. Here's the headline. I'm just going to read the headline. Mexico's President Sheinbaum said her government would ask Google to make Mexican America pop up on maps of the U.S.
I guess that's what happens when your president is a climate scientist woman. Oh.
I just love the Google's policy, because after Trump renamed it Gulf of America, Google's policy is, well, if that's what the government calls it when you're in America, then, well, that's what we'll show on the map. And Google said that. They said, that's our policy. We just show whatever the country, the government says in that country. So now she is saying, we don't want to call it United States of America. We're calling it Mexican America. America. I love that.
Here's the real question. Why does God hate me specifically? How does Mexico have a Jewish woman climate scientist for president, and I live in America? How did this happen?
Oh, you could move to Mexico.
Can I? Is it actually?
It's possible. I believe actually now we're forcing them to take everyone in America, aren't we?
Probably
We're
too
pushing
hot.
everyone out.
Probably too hot for me. My good news of the week: Seattle voters say yes to corporate tax hike to fund social housing. Look, I just want to report on one shareholder proposal, basically that passed somewhere in the world.
Yeah, it's Seattle.
Okay, but so I don't care. A ballot initiative to fund social housing through an excess compensation tax on city businesses paying salaries of over $1 million. They're looking at, obviously Amazon, Starbucks type. But look, I want to report on one win for shareholders somewhere.
Okay. I'm going to go with mine's the winner, then.
Okay. Okay. Look, you had me at Claudia Schonbaum. Anything you say about Claudia Schonbaum, I'm in on. So that's my winner too.
Look, it made me prouder to be a Mexican America. That's what it made me prouder to be. All right. Now we're going to bring it down. You ready to bring it down?
Yeah, let's bring it down.
Bring it down. All right. I'm going to start with one of your stories of the week, or at least the concept: green hushing.
Green hushing.
So I don't know if you know this concept of green hushing.
Well, I think I can guess. Yeah, go ahead.
It's you stop talking about anything green related, sustainability related. You just don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, why do that?
You don't disclose it. You don't talk about it. You pretend it doesn't exist.
Sure.
The headline I saw was green hushing emerges as anti-ESG pressures mount for companies. And here's what I think. Stand up for yourselves, you fucking babies. Like, what are you doing? Why are you green hushing?
Enough said.
Because either it is the right thing to do for your shareholders and stakeholders, and you should say it, as in we set climate targets because we recognize climate change as a risk, and we want to inform our investors of the risks of climate change to our business, or like stakeholders in general, our employees, the communities in which we work in will no longer be habitable because of climate change. Either it's real, or it's not, and you're a fraud.
Yeah. I wish we could we just compel these organizations to at least admit one of two things: either I'm a fraud, I never believed this in the first place, I just do whatever, I just sway wherever the political winds take me.
Yep, love it.
Or what is the other choice? What is the other choice? I'm afraid.
No,
the science. The science is right. But I'm afraid of Trump. But they can't say that, Matt, because they're afraid of the boogeyman, right? They're afraid of Musk and Trump. I wish they at least tell us. I just want them to tell us if they actually ever believed it in the first place. That's what I want to know.
Look, information suppression happens because people suppress the information. Like, what is the actual risk that the Trump administration will, sue you? Stop doing contracts with you. Like there are like monetary risks. If you list those risks out
but that's
to
a game
investors
of capitalism.
And you say,
that's always a game of capitalism.
Like you could say two things at the same time, which is we recognize that climate change is a fundamental risk to our business. If it accelerates, it hurts our employees, it hurts our suppliers, it hurts our physical assets, it hurts our business in some other way, right? There's a million ways you could say climate change could affect your business. Simultaneously, you can say, we recognize by saying that climate change is a risk and believing the science behind climate change and having mapped it and done all the analysis around it, we also recognize that the Trump administration could target us for our recognition of climate change as a risk. If you say both things, investors are informed, right? Isn't that all? That's a whole risk section.
I think it's pretty simple.
In fact, I looked up. Yeah. Since the inauguration to today's Valentine's Day, there have been 100 10Ks released in that period. It's like a 3-week period. 61 of them list the Trump administration and their risk factors. And
great.
For not the administration itself, it's like some rule that they have, an executive order, they're focused on climate, they're changing, and they say like we can't predict the risk.
That is the administration. It
is the administration.
Hey, so how about this, babies? Why don't you go back to embracing capitalism and try to make some money off of this? I've been saying this for years. Why don't you just embrace the potential opportunity of the fact that the science is probably right because 99% of scientists believe in it, and just make some goddamn money. How about that?
Yeah, and also like it's fun that the focus on climate change is actually the biggest places it's going to hurt now are all of the Republican states that have benefited the most from.
That's the
like,
oddity of
the
this.
Clean energy.
That's the
investments.
oddity. Yeah, yeah.
So that's number one. Green hushing companies. Stand up for yourselves, you babies.
Number two.
Number two. ISS.
Oh.
Ooh. Yeah, I can't find my. There it is. My sound effect fast enough. Here's the headline. We covered this on Tuesday, but ISS indefinitely halts consideration of diversity factors when making proxy voting recommendations.
Okay.
Indefinitely. They said indefinitely. So let's talk very briefly about the value of diversity factors.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it strictly as data. We don't have to talk about the moral outrage of having all white male boards. Like we can
talk
actually,
about that.
You can if you want, but ISS is not like going to get in this game for moral reasons anyway. I'm fine with that. They can, but let's talk about diversity factors as a data set.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, investors are paying ISS and Glass Lewis. Glass Lewis did not make this announcement, but they're paying ISS hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're paying ISS hundreds of thousands of dollars instead of free float.
Oh.
And now they're getting less data on the directors.
Yeah, see how that works? Yeah.
So they
Kind
took
of a
something
backwards approach, ISS.
away from you. Usually
Yeah.
you give someone something and then you charge them, money for it. But you're charging them the same amount to give them less of something. So
they're not even considering the factors, Matt. It's not like they're changing the weighting of how they're looking at it. They're not even considering the factors. They're not even looking at the data.
Indefinitely halts consideration. Yeah, we're not halting giving you the data. We're just halting We're not even going to look at it. That's correct.
Yeah.
Here are the factors that you no longer consider, that you've halted indefinitely considering. Gender diversity. Women outpace men globally in sector knowledge for every board that they're on. In fact, like when you look at the data, women are more likely to have gone to an elite school or have an advanced degree and have direct knowledge of the industry of the company they're on the board of.
Yeah, I would say in general that if you're looking for a new director, you should start with the data set that has the F under gender, because you're right, that woman is probably going to come with a crap load of industry knowledge. So
I mean,
you might want to look at her first. You want to look at her first.
If you are here, this is the factor you're no longer considering. I know you don't want to say that we should hire a woman for a woman's sake. You're not actually hiring a woman for a woman's sake. What you'd be hiring is the probability that the woman has gone to a better school, gotten a better education, and knows the industry, because that's what's there now. That's who gets hired now. Women tend to have stronger networks. So few women break the glass ceiling to get into a board, they end up getting recycled, which means they have more friends in high places than a lot of men do. They know people on all sorts of other boards. So they have information networks once they break that ceiling that tend to be stronger than men. And to boot, women and men have exactly, and I mean exactly, the same performance metrics as directors. And by performance, I am talking about during their tenures, they oversee the exact amount of TSR and earnings performance as a percentile versus industry peers. They are exactly the same.
Okay.
The only advantage that men have is they tend to be CEOs and they tend to retain an economic interest.
Come on.
As in,
Yeah.
no one hires women as CEOs unless there's a crisis and mommy has to clean it up.
Yeah.
And the boys almost always keep the shares for themselves. They keep the money for themselves. They don't want to give any to the girls. Those are not qualifications to be on a board.
No.
So there's the gender factors you no longer consider.
It's weird.
ISS.
ISS. I'm going to be plain. We're going to use plain language for you. You're being weird. It's really weird. I'm sorry, but to bow again. I think what you said earlier, Matt, was right. If you want to list the risks of what the risks of using this data means in 2025 and going forward, and the history of dealing with different administrations and what that means for your outlook, whatever you want to say, but you're just being dopey and weird. You're acting like a middle school boy in seventh grade who's pulling on pigtails. I don't know what you're doing, ISS. It's stupid.
I didn't even talk about race and ethnicity data factors.
Well, there's a lot less of that, unfortunately. But yeah, what do you have on that?
Black female directors at S&P 500 companies in our data set, when we break it down by male, female, and race ethnicity, they are the most knowledgeable of the industries that on the boards they sit on. Black women.
We just pointed this out. The Citigroup, now the board is now majority woman, and the new director is a black woman, T.T. Cole, I think her name is, and her resume is outstanding. So if anything, ISS, you should be actually focusing on the women first, because I think Matt's right. They're probably just better, more talented, more educated, more everything. I mean, Jesus.
In fact, black women have the strongest networks. The Asian men have the highest performance rate on TSR and earnings of S&P 500 companies anywhere. And overall, when we look at knowledge, leadership, economic interests, networks, and performance as factors, diversity factors that include diversity, right? Like those are I'm stripping like gender and diversity metrics out of those factors. I'm just looking at like merit effectively. And then I add diversity in. You want to know who the most meriting board positions are in S&P 500 companies?
Yeah.
Black people, black men and women are they're tied for the highest merit on S&P 500 boards.
This is what's This is why I'm calling ISS just dumb and goofy, because I can understand like you're broadening the conversation around the issue and maybe you talk to your investors about it, but to just drop it indefinitely, just that you're not even gonna look at it, like I don't understand. I don't get it at all.
Well, I know they're not looking at these factors to begin with, but as a brute force way to actually improve merit on your board, diversity factors do a really good job right now. Like if you only hired black women for board positions, the chances are they would tend to be more knowledgeable, have better performance, have more merit than Matt, your average white male. I'm sorry,
but that might be illegal. That might be illegal in America.
I'm sorry, that's what the data says, but that's what it says right now. That's what it says.
Yeah, but that might be illegal. I don't know if you can do that.
The good news is that even if it was illegal, it also served its purpose already. So it's done.
Yeah, it's over. All right, that's your second asshole is ISS. That's an easy one. What else?
Number 3, shareholders who don't use their rights. I know this is a repeat all the time.
Use their rights.
But the SEC, this is a headline, SEC looks to muzzle shareholder culture warriors. So they made this very arcane change.
Culture warriors, yeah.
Culture warriors.
Do they define that? Did they define that? What's a culture warrior?
No, of course not. I mean, the headline here is from the Wall Street Journal, so it's a Murdoch joint, so they're going to call them culture warriors.
Joke there,
but what the SEC did,
what is that? A hairy lesbian? What is that? What is a culture warrior?
Yeah, that's who it is. Only lesbians. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Murdoch.
What they did is they provided new guidance for one particular kind of filing. It's called the 13G filing.
Yeah.
This is arcane, but the 13G applies to any investor who has 5% or more of the company's stock.
So BlackRock.
It applies to it's on average. It is BlackRock, Vanguard, or State Street.
Yeah, there aren't many. There aren't many of those.
There are only a few, right? On average, who almost always own more than 5%, and they're passive. It's passive 5%. This rule is they have to file a 13G, which just says we own this much. It gives you a little bit of information, but it basically says we do not own it with the intent of
we're not
going to
do anything other than getting rich.
We're not an
off
activist.
Of this. Yeah.
We're not like doing
money.
A proxy contest. We own the position. We engage with management, but we're not an activist.
We're here for dollars and to hang out with Joe Gebbia.
So the new guidance, and I could read the whole guidance, but I'm not going to. The new guidance effectively says that if you discuss anything with management that looks like coercion, that looks like you're trying to change management's decision-making process, including something like recommending a company remove a staggered board, switching to majority voting, Just saying, like, we don't like that, like, we prefer simple majority voting. Like, that's
Sure.
good governance practice, right?
Yeah.
Saying that, and this, of course, in the SEC guidance, they include undertaking specific actions on social, environmental, or political policy. So they needed to put that in there because they don't want anyone asking companies about their climate plans, their carbon emissions, stuff like that.
Isn't pressuring companies to drop DEI also a political action? I don't understand.
Only if you're a 5% or more holder, right? Because the change here, and this includes actually voting against a director. If you say we are really concerned about climate change, our policy suggests we should vote against a director who's the head of the nominating committee if you don't take this seriously or whatever, right? Like,
Sure.
if you have anything that says vote against a director as a consequence to not doing what is asked,
That's an activist.
in engagement, you no longer can file a 13G. You have to file a 13D. And the difference between those two things means every time you talk to a company, you have to update your filing. Where a 13G is just an update of, like, once in a quarter, this is how much we own. The 13D is every time you talk to the investor, the company, you have to file. It is engagement death by bureaucracy.
So, Matt, you're saying if you're against management and for anything, you're basically an activist. I mean, if you don't just
If you
listen to everything the board says, everything the CEO says, you're labeled an activist.
If you own 5% of the company or more, so this is really targeting just like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and then a couple of hedge funds that owns other companies that are small, like a small number of other hedge funds. If you own 5% or more of the company and you talk to the company about anything that's a priority to you, that arguably could be coercive, and you are under 13D scrutiny. You need to file every time you talk to them. You file as like you're an activist investor. You're trying to change the company. They effectively are disincentivizing all engagement of the majors.
I mean, Matt, how many years away are we? If this continues like this, how many years away are we from getting rid of things like say on pay votes, from even just publishing all the data about compensation, or even voting on directors in the first place? How many years away are we from this?
Just get rid of it all. But here's what I think you could do in the interim. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. I know you listen to the show. I know your entire engagement teams listen to the show. I know the CIO and the CEO,
Hi.
Larry Fink. You're
Hi.
listening, right?
Hi.
How you doing, guys? Good to have you here.
They are guys mostly, yeah.
What you need to do from now on is basically do not vote at all. Don't vote at all, which means only minority shareholders will vote. And minority shareholders, I know every shareholder in every company is listening to this show right now. Vote against directors.
Well, that is actually a fascinating point you bring up, Matt. Why are the BlackRocks voting anyway? Right? If they're passive?
You're adding nothing with your votes.
Yeah,
you're simply doing what management said.
You're diluting actual shareholder sentiment, are you not?
The ultimate pass-through vote is to stop voting entirely.
Yeah,
like, you are not doing
like
an
this,
assessment
Matt.
anyway.
Finally, you have a good idea, a good thought. I like this. I love this.
So don't vote. Let us do it for you.
Yeah, let's let the shareholders actually speak.
We're the ones who have a vested interest in the outcome.
Sure.
We're the shareholders who care.
And we've actually probably done the due diligence. We've actually probably spent time in the proxies.
And you've got all of the other shareholders are going to freeflowanalytics.com and they're looking up the directors and seeing actually how they perform.
Yeah.
Imagine a world in which you stopped basically watering down our votes. The votes of people who care.
You're saying imagine a world with accountability? Is that what you're saying?
Oh man, that's a bridge too far.
It's a harsh world. Yeah, it's a harsh world.
Those are your three options for Assholiest of the Week: Green Hushers, ISS, and the big shareholders who don't use their rights.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Green Hushers. Yeah, boy, these are all good. I mean, I feel like, do I vote against ISS every week? I feel like I don't want to just keep laying on the ISS horn. I mean, they're just like obvious.
It's that they stink every week. Is that our problem? I don't know.
No, I usually don't vote for your kind of your big kind of general theories assholes, but I like this last one. Shareholders don't use their rights, and I love mostly because I love this new mandate to the 13G filers, which is if you're gonna be passive. Be passive. Stop voting.
Yeah, baby.
Stop diluting actual shareholder sentiments. Stop it. That's my vote.
I love it. And then we'll all organize and rally to vote out every single director using free flow analytics data. Let's do it, baby. I love it.
All right.
Oh, so that's Assholeiest. Now headlines, winners, predictions. Let's wrap up this show. Now I'm tired. I need a little lay down.
My headline's perfect for you then. Headline is the week. This is perfect for you, Matt. Here's the headline. Denny's. It's from Denny's. Denny's says consumers fatigued by news, economy, inflation, everything. Hey, right? I mean, Denny's got it. They nailed it, right? I mean, that's exactly how I feel. I am fatigued by all that. I love it, Denny's. I don't usually like your food. I don't go to your restaurants anymore, but I like your understanding of the American population.
I'm too fatigued to go to their restaurants, honestly. And
what do you got?
What do you got? So what I got for headlineist is purely juvenile. I channeled my middle school boy. I saw this headline and I laughed out loud. This is a real company. This is a real headline. I didn't make any of it. Mm-hmm. Double Deuce. Double Deuce. It's a company. Double Deuce Exploration.
That sounds like a middle school joke. Yeah, go ahead.
Double Deuce announces appointment of Paul A. Dumas, which looks like dumbass, as chairman of the board of directors. Double Deuce announces Paul Dumbass as chairman of the board of directors.
Double Deuce Dumbass.
By the way, they also put in that press release, this is the Double Deuce Exploration Company in Canada. They wrote, quote, "We believe that his experience and knowledge of the mining sector, his wealth of contacts, and his expertise in growing a company and creating shareholder value will be incredibly beneficial to Double Deuce Exploration." What are those things? Knowledge, network, and performance. Merit, baby.
I like it. Yeah, Double Deuce. Why don't you come use our database, and that way you can prove some of this stuff that you
Double Deuce
BS about. All right, okay, that's it. Headline of the week. It's over.
Yeah, it's over. My headline's better than yours.
Oh, okay.
Who's the winner of the week?
Winners.
Who won?
We already talked about mine. I didn't think we were gonna. We talked more about them than I thought, so I'm not gonna reiterate. My winners are obviously Joe Gebbia. For having three bodyguards protecting him from the world.
I do like that.
And Richard Gnodde, the Goldman Sachs banker, for basically declaring that the need for civil rights and equal rights is done. It's over. It's
like it that the South African investment banker from Goldman Sachs
I'm trying not to laugh at that statement. Yeah, go ahead.
Is saying that
South African, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's that DEI has served its purpose in the middle of Trump saying that white people from South Africa should come to America as refugees because of the black land grab.
Yeah. Well, the good news
is
irony.
irony.
The good news is that those white South Africans are like, no thanks, because Trump runs the country here.
Yeah, I think that's probably
the other thing about Richard. Richard, if you spent a little bit more time paying attention, you might realize that actually we need your programming, your diversity initiatives more than ever now. Actually, that's the irony. More than ever.
All right, predictions.
You didn't have a winner. What's your winner?
My winner is anyone who's not a cow veterinarian.
That's me.
Because that's me too. I saw this headline: H5N1 testing in cow veterinarians suggests bird flu is spreading silently.
Oh no!
That's
Wait, the people, the
veterinarians are basically have like versions of the bird flu.
Wait, so maybe this is good news then. Maybe the inflationary price of things like eggs, and maybe it's good now because we won't be catching bird flu because we won't be eating as many chickens and eating as many eggs. Maybe this is all good news.
I can't give up eggs. Eggs are too good.
Predictions. My prediction, Jamie Dimon. I'm going back to Jamie Dimon, who said
I don't like it.
Who said that he was, what did he say, is never a believer in bias training? Is that what he said? I was never really
training. Yeah, it doesn't believe in bias training. Yeah,
he doesn't believe in it. Yeah, because he would be the expert I would go to, right? I would go to Jamie Dimon, white man, billionaire, and say, what are your thoughts about bias training?
About systemic bias you face.
Yeah. So this is what he's doing now. My prediction is Jamie Dimon starts to remove tampons. He starts to remove tampons from women's bathrooms at JP Morgan Chase because he says, quote, I was never a firm believer in women's hygiene products.
Oh, I don't like this at all.
Jamie, what are you doing, Jamie? You're not an expert in that either, Jamie. So what are you doing?
All right. Well, I have a prediction for you.
Go ahead.
To wrap the show. My prediction is that Kimball Musk
boo.
will be, now that Joe Gebbia has got himself a position down in Washington too, all the board members are going to get in on Doge, and Kimball Musk is going to be leading, who better, leading the Kennedy Center now that Trump has taken over. That's my prediction. Kimball Musk, head of the Kennedy Center.
Could happen.
I actually think it could happen now. Yeah. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's all we got. That's Hazelnut Rallis. I'm your AnalystHole Matt Moscardi. We are free floats. I actually just did a crossover show with shareholder primacy. If you haven't heard shareholder primacy,
download it.
Go download it. Next week's show, I'm going to be on with Mike Levin, and in fact, we're going to cut some of that talking with Mike Levin and put it on our show, so you can hear a little bit about what that's like, because these are people who are way smarter than us, which is a low bar, but they are. It's a low bar. Until next week, goodbye.